I trusted them because they were family. I never imagined they would be the reason I was afraid in my own home. Nightmare 1. I never worried about leaving my daughter with family. My cousin Emily had always been responsible, calm, dependable. When she offered to babysit while my husband and I went to a friend's anniversary dinner, it felt like the easiest decision in the world. Emily had babysat before. She knew our routine. She knew how early Lily usually fell asleep. She even brought over coloring books to keep her entertained. Nothing about the night felt unusual. Before we left, Emily smiled and told us not to rush home. "Go enjoy yourselves," she said. "Everything will be fine." For the first 2 hours, everything was fine. Emily texted once to say Lily had fallen asleep early. She even sent a photo of her tucked into bed with her stuffed rabbit. We relaxed. For the first time in months, we weren't checking our phones every 5 minutes. But when we got home around 10:30, something felt off. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Emily's car was gone. At first, I thought maybe she had stepped out to take a call, but Lily was still asleep upstairs. Emily hadn't said she was leaving early, and she definitely wouldn't have left Lily alone. My husband checked the kitchen while I went upstairs. Lily was still asleep, exactly where she should be, but the baby monitor screen on the dresser was turned off. That was strange. We never turn it off. When I pressed the power button, the screen flickered back on, and for a split second, I saw movement in the hallway outside Lily's room. I froze. My husband came upstairs when he heard me call his name. We checked the hallway. Nothing. Every door was locked. Every window was closed. Emily finally texted back almost 20 minutes later. She apologized, saying she had suddenly felt sick and didn't want to wake Lily. She claimed she thought we would be home soon. It didn't sit right with me. But technically, nothing had happened. At least, that's what I thought. Until the next night. While reviewing footage from our security camera, my husband noticed something strange. Around 9:12 p.m., someone walked past the nursery door. It wasn't Emily. The figure was taller, broader. They paused outside Lily's room for nearly 30 seconds, just standing there, listening. Then they walked out of frame. Emily never mentioned anyone being in the house. When we confronted her, she went completely silent. Then she admitted she had invited her boyfriend over without telling us. She said she didn't think it was a big deal, but we never agreed to a stranger being inside our home, watching our daughter sleep. And the worst part, we never would have known if we didn't have cameras. We trusted family, and family brought a stranger into our child's bedroom hallway. If that doesn't make you double-check your logs tonight, the next story might. But first, if you enjoy true stories that remind us how fragile trust can be, subscribe to Nightmare Central, because these stories only get darker from here. Nightmare 2. I gave my sister a spare key for emergencies. At least, that's what I told myself. She had always been the more organized one in the family, responsible, helpful, reliable. When I started working longer hours, she offered to stop by occasionally to check on things, bring packages inside, water plants, feed the dog if I got stuck late. It felt comforting knowing someone I trusted had access to the house. At first, everything seemed normal. Packages were stacked neatly on the kitchen table. Mail was sorted into tidy piles. Sometimes the dishwasher would even be unloaded. It felt like I had someone looking out for me. But then small things started changing. A framed photo on the shelf was slightly tilted. Throw pillows were rearranged differently. One afternoon, I came home to find the hallway closet open. I never leave that door open. I asked my sister if she had stopped by. She casually said yes. I just wanted to make sure everything looked okay, she told me. That phrase stuck with me. Everything looked okay. What did that mean? Over the next few weeks, more things seemed off. Drawers didn't feel exactly how I'd left them. The thermostat would sometimes be adjusted. Lights I didn't remember leaving on were glowing when I walked through the front door. I began to feel like someone was inside my home, even when I knew I had locked every door before leaving. One night, I decided to test something. Before leaving for work the next morning, I placed a small piece of tape across one of my desk drawers. If the drawer opened, the tape would tear. When I returned home, the tape was broken. My sister hadn't mentioned coming over that day. When I confronted her, she admitted she had stopped by to check on things, but she couldn't explain why she had opened my desk or why items inside had been moved. That night, I installed a small security camera in the living room. Nothing fancy, just something to give me peace of mind. 2 days later, I checked the footage. At 1:17 p.m., my sister entered the house using her key. She walked slowly through the living room, looking around carefully, like she was making sure no one else was there. Then she did something I still can't explain. She walked directly up to the camera, stared into the lens, and unplugged it. She didn't know the camera had already uploaded the footage. When I asked why she unplugged it, she said she felt uncomfortable being recorded, but I never told her about the camera, which meant she must have been searching the house closely enough to find it. I changed the locks the next day, and I never gave anyone a spare key again, because sometimes trust doesn't break all at once. Sometimes it slowly disappears, one small detail at a time. And the next story proves, sometimes family doesn't just cross boundaries. Sometimes they refuse to leave. Nightmare 3. When my cousin Mark asked if he could stay for a few days, I didn't hesitate. He had just gone through a difficult breakup. He said he needed time to figure things out, a place to clear his head. He promised it would only be temporary, just 1 week, maybe 2. Mark had always been quiet growing up, a little awkward, but harmless. Or at least, that's what I believed. The first few days felt normal. He kept mostly to himself, spent time on his laptop, occasionally helped with dishes. But after the first week passed, he never mentioned leaving. When I asked about his plans, he said he was still waiting to hear back about an apartment. Another week passed, then another. Slowly, things began to change. Mark started asking detailed questions about my schedule, what time I usually left for work, when I came home, whether anyone ever stopped by unexpectedly. At first, I assumed he was just making conversation, until I noticed he seemed to know when I arrived home, even when he wasn't in the same room. One evening, a neighbor casually mentioned seeing Mark standing by the living room window late at night, just watching the street, watching people pass, watching cars pull into driveways. When I asked Mark about it, he laughed it off, said he couldn't sleep, said the street was calming, but something about the way he said it made me uneasy. Then, one afternoon, while cleaning the guest room, I found a notebook tucked beneath the mattress. At first, I assumed it was just a journal, but when I opened it, my stomach dropped. Inside were pages filled with notes, not about his life, not about his breakup, about me, my work schedule, my habits, The times I left the house, the times I returned, even notes about which lights I turned on first when I walked inside. Some entries were dated weeks before he asked to stay, which meant he had been observing my routine long before he ever needed a place to live. When I confronted him, he became defensive, said he was just trying to understand the household rhythm, but the explanations didn't match the detail inside that notebook. I asked him to leave the next day. He didn't argue. He just packed quietly, and before walking out the door, he said something I still think about. I just liked knowing where everything was. Sometimes, the people closest to us know us better than we realize, and sometimes that knowledge becomes something far more disturbing, because family isn't always safe, trust isn't always deserved, and sometimes the scariest stories don't involve strangers at all. Something even scarier than this nightmare is not watching more videos from Nightmare Central. This was Nightmares of the Family. Sleep carefully.